My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your F.A.T.E. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. On today's show, I have Larry Eissler III. He has been in the paranormal industry for the last 15 years, investigating houses in the Midwest. He is an author, a filmmaker. He has a show on the Paraflix network called Expedition Entity. That's what we're talking about today, gang. Spirits and entities. Larry, welcome to your F.A.T.E, sir. How you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. This is going to be a really good show, I think.
It is. It is. We have a mutual friend in common. I have to give a little shout out to Dave Schrader. He's the best. Very nice to meet you. Welcome aboard. Here we go. Let's get into it. So tell me a little bit about what you do, what you have found, what inspired you to do these investigations. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got going.
Okay. So what I would call myself now, I feel like I don't fit into the role of the paranormal investigator anymore.
Interesting.
I did for a long time. We leaned heavily into the science and to theory and trying to figure things out. But it never really fit well for me. So I am a paranormal filmmaker now, and I focus mostly on stories. I like telling stories, and sometimes the best way to tell a story is to do it through a film media where you can watch the video and see the reenactments or see for yourself the responses and how people catch them, and then tie them to the history that was discovered, during the interview process. And it allows me to tell the story of the owner, the story of the building, the story of the spirits. And with Expedition Entity, we focused on lesser known locations. So these are stories that almost no one has heard of.
Right.
I got a lot more fulfillment out of that than to try to recreate laboratory results with the paranormal. That's not fun for me. I like telling stories. I like history. I like documentaries. So, I started to lean away from the science side and now I tell stories and I really enjoy that. Where I came into the paranormal. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You continue, please.
Where I came into the paranormal was actually to disprove it. It started in 2009. I had just came home from my deployment, and I was a big fan of Ghost Hunters. It was a fantastic show, but there were a lot of things where I'm like, I don't know about that one. So, it's TV magic, movie magic. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to prove all this wrong. So I joined this web forum back in the day when everybody met on web forums instead of Facebook and whatnot. And everyone that would post their photos, their evidence, I would find a way to debunk it. So, 2009-ish, that was the time the apps came out where you could put the ghost in the photo from the app. And it was very easy to find the ghost they pulled as reference for these photos because they're all over the internet. So, I did that for months until finally someone said, hey, you're crapping on all of our evidence here. You need to go out and you need to do a real investigation. I said, you know what? Fine. You take me somewhere and we'll see what happens. And lo and behold, we went to a place called Scott Mansion in Joliet, Illinois. Hiram B. Scott was one of the original patent holders for several strands of barbed wire and had a very large, very nice mansion, but it fell into disrepair, and it was in really rough shape when we went there. And I saw my first shadow figure. I was touched for the first time. I felt a temperature drop for the first time. I heard noises around the room when we were the only ones in the room. And I spent the entire time behind the camera. So, everyone that was in front of me was who was in the room. So why is there sound coming from behind me? And I couldn't explain it. So I started investigating on my own a little bit. When I was by myself, I leaned more into urbex. So I'd find the abandoned locations and trying to pull stuff out of there and got some spooky stuff. And then I met Dan Norvell, early 2010, I think. He put up a post on Facebook saying, he's going to do a cemetery crawl with a bunch of people. And I showed up, and then we worked together all from 2010 until this last January when he retired.
So through your investigations, you went from being a bit of a disbeliever to now what is your beliefs now as far as it goes with spirits and entities? I love the spookiness and I love all of that. Like, I'm completely into it. But I also want to delve a little bit more into the spirituality and into the energy of things and into your experiences from that perspective. Like, has your investigations changed your belief system on what we are?
They have. When Dan and I first started together, that's really when like my paranormal renaissance happened. I was open to new techniques and new thoughts and introduced to new people just because I started working with him. So we started kind of theorizing the first year or two we were together. Like, well, why does this happen? Why does that happen? Why, when I'm investigating, do I get like an upset stomach or a headache? Or, why does my skin itch? And we started coming up with all these theories. And one of the theories we came up with in 2012 was a layered multiverse aspect to the paranormal, to where there's a reason why, there isn't 50 million ghosts just walking around everywhere, because they're not all here. As soon as your spiritual anchor, i.e. your body, is snipped when you pass, you no longer have this three-dimensional flesh bag weighing you down. You can transition to the next plane, which would, in theory, be another dimension, we thought. And the same for, the opposite way, beings of the other side of the dimensional separation, one goes up, one goes down. We feel the same way, that whatever is a little more, I don't want to say evil, but not good, could also be coming from another dimension. And there's just weak spots or spots that are thinned out that they're able to transition over here. So we kind of went with that theory for a long time and trying to just figure it out. And I remember we wrote a theory book in 2012, and I've done my best to bury it because it was self-published and the grammar is horrible and it is just gross. But published it is. And in that book, we talked about, the same thing, how your body is your spiritual anchor. And that's why when you investigate a cemetery, even if that spirit has crossed on, they're able to come back to the cemetery because that's where their body is. Mm-hmm. Even though they're no longer connected to it, they're able to find their way back to it because they lived in there for so long. Same with the location that they died in, because they were tragically separated from their anchor. That's a point that they're able to come back to with ease. So we kind of developed these theories and worked through it. And an astrophysicist actually messaged Dan and said that we were on the right track. So that was actually really interesting.
Yeah, I believe the same. I believe that we are much more interdimensional beings, and that this is one plane that we exist on within our 3D avatar that we walk around, or meat bag, whatever you want to call it. And then we are souls with a body and not humans with a soul, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
To you.
And I've had, past life readings or tellings or whatever they're called. And there are things about my personality that this psychic was able to pull out of my past lives, and like, because of this life, you're this way here. Because of that life, you're this way there. And I'm like, okay, interesting.
It's so interesting.
And it's kind of like a rabbit hole. Once you start going down it, you might not come back out.
It's very layered and complicated, our existence. The more I research and find out and talk to people, the more I understand how really complex life is, and that
Yeah.
there is really so much that I feel like we're missing a piece of our history as to where we really came from and who we really are. I feel like we are much more powerful and we are
Oh
much more
yeah.
capable
Oh
than
yeah.
what our own belief systems. We kind of get programmed from birth to act, look, think a certain way, and it
Mhm.
really tamps down our imagination and our ability to think outside the box and really be able to explore humanity, consciousness,
Mhm.
energy, vibration, frequency. All of that plays into our existence on this planet,
Right. And then how
and
we
that
resonate with other sounds and vibrations and
yes,
frequencies. It's that
yes,
resonation between the two that is when the magic happens.
that's exactly right. And the
Yeah.
fact that we are so limited in our senses, we only see a certain spectrum of light that we're
Yes.
capable of seeing.
Yes.
Beyond that, we are not able to sense or see anything. And there's so much going on outside that spectrum that that does not penetrate our eyeballs. We cannot see it. And
Mhm.
we may be able to feel it. We may be able to sense it, but we can't see it.
Right.
And I think that if we had the ability to kind of expand our senses a little bit, it would really open our minds to really the magnitude of what's going around us all of the time. Um,
Another one of those
having,
theories in that book is about where the paranormal realm exists, or the interdimensional gateway, whatever you want to call it, where that exists. And Dan and I theorized that using IR is probably the worst way to capture a ghost. Firefighters use IR because it penetrates through smoke pretty well. So
for
if a
those of us
ghost
who
is
don't
misty,
for those of us who aren't familiar with the paranormal experience, please explain what IR is, just so we
oh,
can all follow along.
so if this is our light spectrum, right? And I
Mhm.
have to do this opposite. So this one is red light and this one is purple light. Everything in between is what we can see. So on
Gotcha.
this side by the red light is infrared. It's past our visible spectrum, but just the very, very, very edge of it we can see. And that's why sometimes if you have an infrared bulb, it has that red glow to it. That's just
Mhm.
the edge of infrared that we can see, but everything past it, we can't see. And then it's the same as the opposite side. On the purple side over here, everything past purple is ultraviolet. We, for the most part, really can't see very well. It's kind of similar to infrared. You can see little bits of purple, like a black light or a UV flashlight. We can see a little bit of it, but we can't go too far into it. So when we theorize this, we always notice that infrared is the worst way to see a ghost because they appear as shadows, they appear as mists, but firefighters use infrared to see through smoke. So it wouldn't make sense to see through a mist and think you could record a ghost very easily, right?
Right.
Visible light, the white light spectrum, you get shadows, you can get smoke, you can get mist and stuff like that. It's better than IR. Okay, so now we're heading in a direction. UV, we've captured a lot of weird things on UV photography and full spectrum cameras that go from IR, white light to UV, the whole gambit. So now things are heading in this direction. It's getting better the further away we get from visible light towards UV. Okay, so what's after UV? X-ray and gamma radiation, or X-ray and gamma on the light spectrum. So if it's getting better with UV, in theory, if we had a way to see X-ray and gamma, we would probably be able to see the spiritual gateway, spirits, and the universe like we see each other right now.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Right. So basically what we need to do is just walk around with an X-ray machine like this and just snap, 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 snap. And then we'll see all this crazy stuff.
I think that should be your next movie.
Yeah, right. The paranormal investigator with the X-ray machine strapped to his back.
It would be great. I mean, anything that allows somebody to lift the veil a little bit and get a little bit of perspective about what's possible, I think is good for humanity. People need evidence. People need, for instance, I was an atheist most of my life, and I was very much under the impression that if you couldn't see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, it didn't exist. And anything outside of that was just wishful thinking. And through my own journey of healing and going through some traumatic experiences, I opened up my mind and I started entertaining spirituality, energy healing, and it worked for me. And it really was a situation that it cracked open something in me that allowed me to have an open mind and have the ability to look at things from a different perspective. And now that I am, it has been very enlightening to realize how much energy, frequency, vibration is a part of our daily lives, that we should be paying attention to what we're resonating with, who we're resonating with, and trying to consciously be aware of it. I'm under the impression that whatever you're resonating with, you're going to attract. And if you can keep that in the forefront of your mind, and trauma happens, everybody goes through bad times. You're not going to be able to withstand every little thing that happens in your life and rise above it and resonate with gratitude and love. That's not life.
Right.
However, if you can feel those emotions, recognize them, try and understand, maybe it's happening for a reason, maybe it's trying to teach you a lesson, and move through those, and then realign to finding a better way to feel, it will show up in your outer world. It absolutely will. It's one of our basic laws on this planet, is the law of attraction. Like attracts like. So,
I agree.
What, going back into the spookiness of it all, what would you say is your most profound story of paranormal that you were clicked in and said, oh, I'm no longer a disbeliever. I absolutely know there's something going on. Can you tell us a little story?
Let me follow that up with a question first.
Okay.
Well, first, how much investigating do you do?
I am here. I'm less of a paranormal person and more of a investigating spirituality.
Okay.
I love the spookiness. I'm a firm believer that we are not only interdimensional beings, but there is also other beings of other planets that exist within our dimension that is not something that is accepted in mainstream, but I can't imagine that we're the only ones out there that have the capacity, consciousness, technology. It just doesn't seem like that's a possibility for me.
Sure. But have you ever gone investigating though? Even at like an event? Okay. So in theory, most of the time when you go doing a paranormal investigation, you're investigating people that have passed on, right? What if I told you that we investigated somebody that didn't pass on? The person was still alive, but we were still speaking to a spiritual version of them.
I would say this to that. I think that going back to the fact that our lives are very complicated, I do think that there are versions of ourselves that exist in other planes that's almost endless. And I think if you resonate with a different plane, you're going to have a piece of you, a part of your spirit that lives in other planes. That's what I would say in this situation.
That is exactly correct. So there was an investigation we did many, many, many years ago. And it is also in the theory book that I am not pushing at all. Nobody look for it. I'm not going to tell you the name, but this is in the book. There was a gentleman who just had the worst luck. His wife left him. His kids wanted nothing to do with him. He lost his job. He was losing his house. The only thing that he could do was go to the bar and just drink it away for years. And it was a small town. So he sat in the same stool at the same time, in the evening time, drinking and drinking and drinking. He'd go home. He'd come back the next day, drink and drink and drink for years. Well, one day he stopped showing up to the bar. His life got better. He found a job. He found somebody else. He mended things with his kids and he moved away, no longer going to the bar anymore. Well, some short time later, the man was seen sitting in his stool, drinking and drinking and drinking, but he wouldn't talk to anybody. And when someone went up to go like, hey, you okay? Gone, disappeared. So they called us in and they're like, hey, I think we got a ghost here. And through the course of our investigation, we determined it was residual. And we're like, there's this older man. He sits here. This is what he looks like. We had a psychic with us. She described him to a T. And the bartender pulled up her phone and said, is that him? And she goes, yeah, that's the guy. And told us he just moved away. He no longer comes and drinks anymore, but he's very much alive. And what we determined was he was going through such a hard time. He was bleeding all of that negative energy into the environment. And it was so heavy and so dank and so thick that it stuck. And it took on a life of its own. And he created a negative entity. It wasn't intelligent. It was, residual. It just did this nonstop, but he created that. And that little soul fragment that he left behind, the bad parts of his soul, so that he could move on and do better, whatever his journey is, wherever he went. He left that behind and it's still there today.
I love that story. That is so amazing. And I believe it wholeheartedly.
And it technically counts as a spirit, and it counts as a spirit of a person that's still alive. So, yeah.
It does speak to the fact that if you are having, going through a troubled time, going through trauma, whatever you're going through, that when you start rising above that, you do in a way move on to another dimension. You do leave that resonance, that vibration behind, and you move into a new way of being. And I don't think we recognize these things. I don't think that we're conscious of them when they happen, but I certainly believe that if you meditate, if you can manifest a new way of walking in the world, and you can kind of march into another dimension that is you in every way, shape, or form, but with slightly different changes that are subtle, that maybe only you would know or maybe not pick up on at all. And that is one of the fascinating things about being learning about this type of spirituality and energy and talking to people like you, is that it has allowed me to have a lot less fear in my life. Like, I no longer fear dying. Like, I don't feel like we die. I used to feel like once you die, that was it. You had your time on the planet and you were going to cease to exist. And I felt like I was at peace for billions of years before I was born, and I would be at peace for billions of years after. And now I don't feel like I'm going to die at all. I feel like I am a energetic body, that I have always existed and that I always will exist. And I'm here to learn, and that the earth is almost like a plane of school. You're supposed to expand your consciousness, learn, grow. Karma. What do you think about karma? Do you think we're here to fulfill karma and we're going to come back here and relive lives until we've learned everything that we're supposed to learn within our plane here, and then you go on to another dimension? Is that your theory?
It is. And it kind of draws back to that past life reading that I had. In every single life, dating back to Horses and Armor, I was always in war. And I never learned the one thing that I was supposed to do, because I always died in battle, according to this woman that did this reading. Except for this life, because I came home from my deployment. And she goes, well, what did you do differently? I don't know. I was there. I just did my job. She goes, well, whatever you did, it was different enough to where you learned the lesson you're supposed to learn. Great. Wow. Perfect. So, but outside of that, yes, I think that there's things that we're supposed to learn along the way that you just don't always learn.
Yeah.
something happens. There was a fated meeting that for some reason didn't happen. I'm learning about soul contracts and different things between people that can be forcefully broken before they're supposed to be enacted. Or a new contract can be rewritten after the old one expires. So it's like, I'll give an example. I have a soul contract with somebody that, according to this medium that I worked with, mine is basically written on papyrus. It is an ancient contract, and it goes back all of my past lives. Me and this other person that the contract's written about, we're supposed to interact and have some kind of a major, like something is supposed to be learned, but it's supposed to be major to us every time. So some kind of fundamental change when we interact, and then that's it. We just go our separate ways. And it's like, well, that seems like a waste. Like I learned this thing and I was like, toodles, I'm out. See ya. Have fun. It's like, why wouldn't the contract extend beyond that to keep learning? And apparently that's all that was necessary. Just that one interaction, boom, done. You've now learned the lesson you're supposed to learn. So, I mean, in a lot of things, I guess, I was also atheist when I was younger.
Oh, interesting. Hello, fellow atheist.
Right. I've turned into more agnostic because I don't follow any religion, because all religions are written by man and they're all influenced by man. I mean, just look at the Dead Sea Scrolls and all the different the books in the Bible that weren't included.
Yep.
So, any religion has the touch of man to it, and which makes it no longer valid. You have to look beyond what's on the text. You have to look between the lines and see, the influence of the people that put it to word. And in this case, they're talking about events that happened 300 years prior. So.
Yeah, I agree. I really wish that the world could be such a different place. And I'm not here to bash religion. People's religious views are, quite frankly, none of my business. And whatever gives you peace and whatever makes you walk in the world with a sense of, safety, and that is your business. I, however, don't think religion was brought to us to be of a peaceful thing. I feel like religion has brought so much strife, and it divides us up into our little groups. And there seems to be a lack of being able to appreciate the Bible for being a historical document without using that document to beat somebody else over the head or judge or make yourself feel like you're going to heaven and somebody else is going to a place of hell. I don't feel like that is what life, our experiences are supposed to be about. I'm just sad that religion has become I find it to be a very negative tool that is used by humanity to separate us and keep us from an inability to see each other for who we are. We will always be more alike than we ever will be different. And I think religion was brought here to be a cudgel almost, and not something that promotes love. And I'm not saying that all religion is of that ilk, but there seems to be a broad spectrum of that happening, especially in today's society, where people are so embedded in their religious beliefs that they're incapable of seeing somebody for anything other than labeling them something that they don't agree with, or
Yeah. The way that I look at it is, if you think back to the turn of the millennium, and people around that time were very spiritual. There were some religions, the Mayans had a religion, and the Britons had their druidic religion, but it was more in spiritualism than anything else. Native Americans had their versions, but it was very spiritual based. The Greeks and the Romans, it's 50-50, but heavy spiritualism. So here you have this man that does all these wild things, but in a time where they're more spiritually connected, which also might mean that 2024 years ago, those barriers between dimensions might have been thinner and closer together. There's a really good chance that if you are into the conspiracy theories, that Jesus was more than likely than not a interdimensional traveler.
Yes.
Who
I agree.
has seen how things are going to become. The Romans were just incredibly barbaric. Many ancient Greek factions were incredibly barbaric. And he was trying to bring about spiritual peace through his faction and his growth and his journey. And the barbarism cut it short. Yeah. And unfortunately, once that spiritual leader was gone, everyone else swooped in and transformed it into what it is now, away from its original purpose, which was supposed to be the spiritual freedom and the interconnection and all that. And it's now turned into a means of control.
Yeah. And money.
And lots of money. There's a reason why the Catholic Church for centuries has been not only the richest organization in the world, but also the most corrupt. Yeah.
It's I don't know how to fix that. I don't know, I don't know if humanity will ever be able to get to a point where we go beyond our religions and look more within. I think that if you were to take your religious hat off and understand that we are multidimensional beings, we are spirits of light, we are fellow travelers to the grave, we are here to have an experience. Life on this planet could be entirely different. And not only were we more spiritual at one point, but we were also much more connected to nature.
We were.
And we have lost our connectivity to nature. We are a part of nature. And I think
every psychic I know, whenever they're struggling, what's the very first thing they do to ground themselves?
They go out and they go amongst the trees. They go into the woods. They ground. They connect to the earth.
They ground themselves. They take off their shoes and they ground themselves.
Yep.
Rubber is a horrible conductor. You cannot conduct electricity through rubber, but all of our shoes have rubber at the bottom of them. So we've lost the ability to connect to nature because we protect the bottom of our feet.
Yep.
But the moment you remove your shoes and you really get into the earth, you could feel it. You could feel that connection. And that's why I believe a lot of people feel peace at the beach.
Yeah.
Because one, you've got the tranquil waters and the rolling of the waves and all that, but nobody wants to wear shoes at the beach. So what do? You dig your toes into the sand and you feel that connection.
Yeah. Grounding is important. I mean, I don't do it enough, but it is something that can really impact you emotionally and physically if you get out and ground and get centered. It's who has time in the rat race that we live in? We live in such a matrix of over competition, over consumerism. And I feel like life on the planet is pretty dystopian at this time. There's so much negativity and our overall conscious is just dark. It's dark out there, Larry.
Yeah, there are so many influences. Facebook is one of the worst, yet we all use it because we have to.
It's true.
You know, if you want to find viewers for your podcast, you have to go where the viewers can see your podcast. If I want to find people to follow the documentaries I make, I have to promote it to where they're going to see it. And where is that? Social media. But any other time when you're not pushing your content out there and you're just flipping through, it's the worst of the worst. Facebook suggests, oh, you should leave your girlfriend because she doesn't treat you right. And then if you watch one of those videos, it'll show you 45 more. And it's like negative, 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 negative.
Yes. 100%. I am not, you are 100% correct. I am forced to get on there and promote my podcast and do what I can. Prior to doing a podcast though, I think I've tweeted or whatever you call it now, like twice in my life.
Next.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I never really understood the draw to social media. I'm not one that follows other people. I'm not one that really cares that much about what other people are thinking, saying, or doing. So for me, there was never a huge draw, but at the same time, it hurts me because I'm also not out there promoting myself all the time. I'll do like one clip a week. And that's really it. I work during the week. I'm not very much into social media. I really think that part of the reason why I'm sort of, I would consider myself fairly sane, fairly, I have nuanced, I think, for myself. I'm not easily influenced by other people. I really do have a very strong sense of who I am, and I figure things out on my own. And the amount of people that are out there looking to others to have their opinions or have their thoughts handed to them is frightening.
Yes.
It's frightening. And social media is right there to shove whatever you want filled down your gullet. They're just going to keep shoving it in there. It's dangerous.
When Facebook was young, it hurts me to say that. When Facebook was young, it was a great place because if I follow you, I will see everything you post. To where, if you post a bunch of negative stuff, click do not follow. I'll never see your stuff again.
That's right.
And it's not that way anymore. Now, if I follow you, it'll show me all the people that you follow. And, let's say I have a family member who, is kind of doing a dark thing right now. They're struggling. Everything that they click and like and comment on, I now see instead of just the stuff that I want to see.
Yep.
And it had so much potential to really connect people, especially in the paranormal, where everything is very media based, sound files, video, photos. We could get together and be like, hey, this is a really weird photo. What do you think about this? And it was fantastic. People were working together and using it to meet up and all sorts of great stuff. And it's still there. Those aspects are still there, but it's just the algorithm and the suggested videos and article. And it's just like, I don't follow this stuff. Stop showing me this stuff. And it's hard. It's hard to get them to stop.
It is. And there is a level of convenience that's happening with technology that is hard to, it's easy to get on there and scroll and fill your time and not be bored and not think and not do anything. It's such
addictive.
Mind killer. Yes, it's addictive.
Yep.
Especially if you're somebody that's of that ilk. I can find other things to do with my time and I fill my time doing other things, but I see the draw, especially with TikTok. Like TikTok's the one app where I'm like, this can be addicting. I do a lot of animal stuff. I will admit I'm a big, like the videos of the animals are pretty cute.
Yeah.
But I can see where and how people would get addicted to just flip into the next video because it's always something cute and entertaining. It just is.
It has the same effect. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all of them. It has the same effect as a slot machine.
Yes.
You flip it and then it rolls and then you find something good or you're not. Or yes, no, next. And then all of a sudden you look down and you just spent $1,000 or you just spent 3 hours watching cat videos.
Yep.
It hits that dopamine. It's the same effect as a slot machine.
Totally. Absolutely. All right. Back to the paranormal. Let's talk spirits and entities again. That was an excellent conversation though, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about the fact that we're kind of living in this super if you were to make a movie of how we live in today's society, it would be very dystopian. I can remember being a kid and seeing movies about the future. And they used to show movies where everybody was like having a good time and technology was amazing and everything was beautiful and people were living around, of the same social economic status. And it was like everybody was like, yeah, the future's gonna be great. Now they make movies where, I'm getting ready to go see the next Mad Max movie. It is utterly tragic, dystopian, desert-like, and
Mhm.
bizarre. And I'm not sure why or how it became to be like that, but I don't think anybody out there really sees the future of humanity coming out roses. You know,
Right.
I don't know how to pull it back or to get people to understand that there's certain big changes that need to happen in order for us all to survive on this planet in one piece. But we're full steam ahead into Mad Max land.
We are. We are.
We
I
really
have a
are.
whole bunch of, I have a big tote of Mad Max gear ready just in case.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I have one of those gigantic Mad Max mohawks so that I could be like the one bad guy from that one. And then he had like the leather cup, the athletic cup on. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
I
Maybe
mean,
I'll get a flaming
nobody's
guitar
making
too.
fun
We'll
of the
see.
preppers anymore.
No,
Yes.
because you look at them
Nobody's,
and you're like, that dude was
no.
totally right.
Yep. Now
So
we used to
especially
make
the
fun of
preppers
preppers, and now I look at
that
them and
hoarded
go,
TP. The ones that hoarded TP
yeah,
before the pandemic, they're like, oh, you want some toilet paper? $20. Here you go.
yep. It's, I'm hoping that I'm going to be resonating in another dimension at that point. I mean, another theory out there is that humans are in the midst of the Great Awakening, an ascension, and
I
there's a thought
that,
that
that happened to me, so
some
I
of us.
agree.
Oh, well, hold on. Let me just make this point, and then we'll move on to your story. But there is
Okay.
a thought out there that we are in a moment where the earth is kind of splitting, and there's people that are going to resonate at a higher level that are going to go on, and the earth is going to be a place in which there's a lot more love and gratitude and respect and a higher vibrational way of living your life. And that the people that are left behind are going to continue to live very difficult lives here in the 3D plane. And no one's going to be able to see the transition or the shift. And the people that rise above are never going to know that they left many of the lower vibrational individuals behind, but that there is a pull going on, and that eventually the dimensions will push or pull apart and become higher and lower. And that is what we're in the middle of, is a transition or an ascension into the next dimension that not everybody will make. So
Yeah. I think you can see that in the spiritual realm already, because I think those spirits that are earthbound, the ones that chose not to move on, I think those stem from lower vibration people. And in order to cross over, you have to have the right vibrational print to match up with the doorway. And if you don't have the key, you have to stay. You don't have the vibration. But there are plenty of people, Dan was phenomenal at this, that helped spirits cross over and helped them gain acceptance and gain their courage and just kind of walked them through, like, you did nothing wrong, all the stuff he did. And we've seen and heard and felt spirits cross over. And like, you could feel the air change and energize. And wouldn't that be the proof of a vibrational change then?
yes.
Did their vibration change to match where it needed to go and they crossed over?
It's fascinating. Do you feel that most of the spirits that are here are lower vibrational spirits? That
The ones that are stuck, yes.
You do? When
Yeah.
you say lower vibrational, do you mean evil? Do you mean
No.
they're sad and they're lower vibrational, or do you mean that they are of the dark? Or
I think all of the above. I think it's complex. There are people that just had a rough go at life. Just not good things happened to them, and they punched out early. They didn't do the healing that was necessary to get through it and to gain that clarity and the insight, and then to raise their vibration. They for whatever reason, punched in their ticket early. Or you have people that were killed accidentally and have no idea what happened to them. They could have been in the middle of their journey. They could have been before their journey. They could have been at the end of their journey. And sometimes they'll move on and you'll never see that car accident spirit again. Or sometimes you'll see this little girl in a nightgown walking down the street at night. All these spirits, they're confused or they're depressed. They did something to themselves. They had something happen to them. They weigh themselves down. And that keeps their vibration low and it prevents them from being able to move on. At that same point, kind of what I was saying earlier, how we're like right in the middle, and then you've got the dimension up and dimension down. I think that the way we view it is higher vibrations are able to go up, and I think lower vibrations are able to go down. So that's your heaven and hell aspect, or, the really bad of the bad people, because they'll have super low vibrations because they didn't do the spiritual cleansing and the healing and the processing. They have the option of going somewhere not so great. But that also means that something not so great could bleed over into our dimension. In theory, they should have lower vibrations on a cosmic scale.
Yeah. Have you ever had any kind of entity or negative vibrational being try to harm you or try to overtake you in any way? Have you had any negative, scary interactions with something that was out to harm and you had to protect yourself or you had to remove yourself from a situation because it was dangerous?
Not me personally. My partner, Dan, we went to this old cemetery. Technically it's a graveyard because it was attached to a church. So an old graveyard. And we would never go into the graveyard unless we're given permission to by the cemetery board, the police, whoever. So we're outside the fence. And my partner, Dan, puts his arms like this over the chain link fence on top of it. And something grabs his arms on both sides and yanks him up and over the fence. And, Dan's a pretty big boy. So to pull him up and over the fence, the only reason he didn't go all the way in was the top of the fence got caught in his pants. And, he had bruises on his arms and stuff like that. Well, that kind of energy, that kind of force usually doesn't come from something very good. Usually it's something not too great, and it really wanted him. So, we're human and we were a bit of thrillsters. So we forgot about it. And then a year or two later, we went back, completely forgetting the fact that he was almost just yanked into this graveyard. And this time, we're traveling up the road. It's very rural. So it's just fields everywhere. And a few minutes away, Dan starts getting sick. He's like, man, I don't feel good. And we're talking. I'm like, listen, we were with a couple other people. We'll go and we'll check it out. You just stay by the car. He's like, yeah, that's a good idea. The closer we got to the graveyard, the sicker he got. So I don't know if it left something behind with him as like an opening that it can come back to or something. That's what we suspect. So we're there for a while and, yeah, I might have trespassed a little bit and I walked up by the church and was taking pictures of the windows in the church. You could get some spooky stuff in windows. So I was like, click, 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 click. And one of the pictures, I was looking at Dan taking pictures. And when I looked back, I didn't look at the camera. I looked up in the window and in the flash, I saw two people standing in the window. And I was like, I didn't say crap, but oh crap, we got to go. So we take off and we get back to the car and Dan is just pale and sweating. And I'm like, Jesus, dude, what is wrong with you? 5 minutes later, we leave the cemetery or the graveyard. He's fine. Perfectly fine again. No big deal. I'm flipping through the photos because I'm telling him about it. And in this very old photo that I don't know where it's at anymore, you can see the shapes of two people standing in the windows. And I'm like, holy crap, dude, look at this. Oh my God. So excited about that. He goes home, I go home. And 2 weeks later, he goes, hey, I think something attached to me when we were at that graveyard because it's It's messing with me now. It's standing in the doorway of my daughter's room. My kids are playing outside, and it was causing one of the swings to swing. And then when I came out the door, it stopped at a dead stop. It's letting me know that I know it's there. It knows I know it's there, and I can't do anything about it. So,
that gave me chills, by the way.
Oh, we're only halfway through. We talked to a medium friend of ours, and she goes, yes, this thing is dark, and it is opened a portal between where it was and your house now, Dan. And it can travel as much as it wants. It now has a way in. So we had to have his wife and his 2 kids go somewhere else. And he and I cleansed his house that night. It's not a small house, but it still took us a good couple hours. And a friend of ours astrally projected to help us. And at this point, I'm like, this is fake. This is crap. This is bull. But you know what? Dan believes in it, so I'm going to believe in it too. Maybe. So we have her on the phone, and she's just kind of talking like, okay, so I'm on my way. I'll be there soon. And then we start getting into it, and we're like, okay, so we're going to start with this room. We're going to cleanse and do the windows, the doorways, go clockwise until we get to this and all the things, right? So we start hearing scuffling in the house. And my first thought was, everything's working. And then she goes on the phone, okay, I just chased him into the living room. And then all of a sudden the blinds in the living room squish against the window. And that little twist stick thing to open and close the blinds, it starts doing this. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Okay, now it's in the living room. Or now it's in the kitchen. That's the living room into the kitchen. And things started clinking in the kitchen. And we're like, what is going on? And she's describing this thing, and it looks human. It has the outward appearance of a human, but it's dark. And it wanted Dan's daughter. It used Dan to get there, and then found a better target when he got there. It got there. So she wrestles it out of the upstairs. We're now in the basement. The final cleansing is the basement, and then out the side door to seal the house off. So we get everything done. She gets it pushed out. It returns back where it came from. She helped us close that portal so it can't get back in. And to my knowledge, has never gotten back in. And me and Dan are sitting there in the basement. And he goes, can you show me a sign that it's gone now? And I kid you not, the 2 of us in the basement felt his house jump a foot to where both of our knees buckled. And I go, what the hell was that? And he goes, I guess it's gone.
Oh my, that is a crazy story.
Yeah.
When you say
and
cleanse,
it's his own house too.
Does he still live there today?
Yeah, he still does.
Oh,
and has had no problem since. So whatever it was, it went back to where it came from, but it was supposedly pretty nasty.
What did you do to cleanse? Did you have sage? Were you doing a bit of a seance? What exactly, when you say we walked around to each room and cleansed it, what was that process?
So Dan he calls himself a recovering Catholic. So he does the holy water, the St. Michael's prayer, the Lord's prayer. I'm a little more earth-based. So I have crystals and sage and sea salt, but I'm also a veteran. So I use little medallions like a St. Michael's medallion, a St. Michael's coin. I have a lot of Viking inspired runes and protection talismans. Mine's more of a hodgepodge of a lot of stuff. So we kind of combined it all together into a ball of let's protect the house with this. And it worked. I don't know if it was his stuff or my stuff or a combination of the two. But it did work.
I think it is intention. Don't you think?
Yeah.
A lot of it is your intention.
Right.
And I think that also
people, we've told them that, especially Dan, because he's Catholic, he'll go, this cross is nothing but a piece of metal if you don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So if you want me to bless you and do all this stuff, because he's an ordained minister, if you want me to do this stuff, if you don't believe in it, then all I'm doing is splashing water on you.
It's true. Our belief system really does dictate what manifests, what happens to you,
Mhm.
how we walk in the world is a lot of what our beliefs are based on. They are almost like, I've heard other spiritual people say, they're like almost shackles on us
Yes.
because, with these certain beliefs that we hold, it does not allow us to see past
Yeah.
or allow our
Yeah.
minds to open enough to see other things that are out there that we are not seeing because our belief system doesn't allow for it. It doesn't allow our mind. It holds us back. Or it can also, our beliefs can also be something that enables us to look into other dimensions, but it is all still believed or based in your own belief system, what you truly believe in your subconscious mind. It's not even just your knowing mind. It is your subconscious mind.
Yeah. And I think a change in my beliefs is kind of what happened, how I got my spiritual transformation here, not that long ago, actually. I think it was
Tell me about it.
a month or two ago. So I've always
Wow.
been, I don't believe in much of anything at all. Started atheist and went more agnostic with questions like something's going on, but I don't know what it is. And I'm not ready to prescribe to anything yet.
Yeah.
So, I did the St. Michael's thing because I'm a veteran and he's the patron saint of veterans. And I was like, yeah, that fits. I could do this. I got slowly into crystals. I don't have a lot. I have a few. And then my understanding of them and belief in them have grown, over the last couple of years, especially the more events that I do. And I have crystal sellers that are friends and they talk about, oh, this is what this does. This is what that does. I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty interesting. Let me get one of those. So, my understanding has changed. My belief in it has changed. About a month ago, I was going through a bit of a hard time. And at some point in the night, my friend Diette, who's a really powerful psychic medium, she said that I got a download. I got a spiritual download or a universal download, because all of a sudden, like, I got these messages and things that were very unclear became clear very fast. Like, hey, you're screwing up. You need to stop now and fix this. Oh, geez, what? Okay, hold on. And, it took a couple of days to really go through it all, trying to process things that just appeared in my head. And then ever since then, I went from being nothing to going, I might be empathic, maybe, to all of a sudden I have a lot of psychic friends. Another psychic friend goes, yeah, you're clairsentient and you got a lot going on. Like, since when? When have I gotten this? And that explains so much now, because other people, but before I'd be like, I don't know about that person. Now I'm like, no, you go away. Like, very strongly, no. Or, almost to the point where I can't control it yet. And it gets kind of annoying, especially people with bad stuff going on. Like, I'll absorb it like a sponge and I don't know quite yet how to get rid of it. I'm still working on that. And, that never happened before. And it came out of nowhere, but it came after this download thing that happened to me. And it's a transformation I'm still trying to figure out. And I don't know if I like it or not yet, but I don't think I get much of a choice.
I mean, we don't get much of a choice. And I think that it's exciting and I'm happy for you, because I would love to. I think we all have some sort of clair ability, clairsentient, clairaudient, I think we have the capacity to hone into that, to focus on that, and to make those stronger if we take the time to do so. But there are some extremely talented, gifted, I've interviewed quite a few of them on my podcast, empaths, trans channelers, psychic mediums that truly have gifts that are beyond comprehension, that you just don't understand how they get this information, how their mind works, how they're able to see colors, how they're able to pick up on other people's energy, how they're able to tell you what's going to happen in the future. I mean, it is, a lot of people mainstream people don't acknowledge or think or poo-poo it, or just don't feel like it is an authentically real thing. And I'm sure there's tons of negative people out there that wouldn't believe in any of this, but there is just so much evidence out there that we have more power to tap into things like that than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that we have really missed out on a part of our history. I used to believe, I have a degree in animal behavior neurobiology. I used to be a Darwinian in evolution. I think that evolution happens, but not the way. I don't believe we started out hundreds of thousands of years ago in the ocean and got legs and started crawling out. My new perspective is this. I think that there was life on this planet. I think there was a version of humans, if you want to call them hominids or whatever. I think another interdimensional being came down and mixed in some special little DNA. And I think humanity was born, and I think they manipulated our species ever since. And I know that is not a very popular, accepted version of events. And I certainly am still learning and researching and talking to people. But quite frankly, Larry, that makes so much more sense to me when you listen to people like Billy Carson or others out there that are talking about the Dead Scrolls or the old ancient texts, or the fact that the other ancient civilizations were not so much cave-like, that they were very quite advanced. You know, you can get into the story of Atlantis. You could get into so many different aspects of our history that are not really talked about or brought up to the surface as being a real possibility. And I'm super open now to things that I was not. I was more like you. I was an atheist. I didn't believe in much of anything. And I think that whether it's because you got a download or because I had to go through a traumatic healing event, I think when you start opening your mind, you start entertaining possibilities and experiencing things that you can't explain.
Right. Other than the fact that, I was going through a bit of a hard time, so that might have played a part too. It really, wasn't until I started looking more into the runic stuff and things like that, where I'm like, maybe I'll start leaning this way in my belief system. That all of a sudden, like, everything changed. So yeah, it's like my intention to start leaning in this direction all of a sudden went, oh, he's ready. Bam, got him.
Yeah. Well, I say congratulations to that. I hope I get a download.
I don't know if it's congratulations yet. We'll see. It's a little stressful right now.
Well, we'll have to keep each other posted on that, because I'd love to hear your updates as they come, and who knows how many downloads you're going to get now in the future. It could be a regular occurrence for you. You just don't know.
I'm perfectly happy the way that I am, but if anyone decides, you know what, hey, here's a little bit more, okay, fine, I'll take it.
I am of the mindset where I have such little fear that I would be welcome. I am sure I would have fear if an alien showed up in my house and took me into a ship, of course. But as far as getting into the more sixth sense and being able to pick up on energy or having that intuition that I think that everybody denies themselves all the time. We don't listen to our intuition. We don't listen to our own bodies. Our bodies will pull us into the direction that we are supposed to be going in. Even muscle testing, it's every single thing in us is conscious, and we have to start learning how to interpret and pay attention to that. And it will absolutely keep us on the right path, I think.
I agree.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your show, Expedition Entity? Is that still going on? How's that going? Tell me a little bit about it. Where can people watch it?
Sure. So Expedition Entity is a Paraflix original series, so you can only watch it on Paraflix. Our season 3, episode 1, won a lot of awards, including a Telly Award, where there was like 13,000 entries, and we were one of very few paranormal shows that actually won an award. So that was a really big deal. We won it in an unscripted online series category. So
Congratulations.
very, very
It's
exciting.
amazing.
Thank you. But the cool thing is, because Paraflix's a subscription-based network, it's only $3.99 to subscribe. But our award-winning episode is in a category that's free to watch for anybody. So you're able to just go to Paraflix and go to, it's called the Paranormal channel. That's their free section. And you could watch one of our episodes for free. Anyone can do that. So I highly suggest anyone to go watch it if they want to taste. The show was designed around lesser known haunted locations. So we didn't want to go to Waverly. We didn't want to go to Pennhurst or anything like that. We wanted to go to spots in the Midwest that the people in the town were like, oh yeah, that place is haunted. But everyone else is just like, where is that? Like, oh, watch this episode. I'll tell you all about it. So the way that we did it was, it was about an hour, somewhere between 50 and, 65 minutes, somewhere in there. And we would do a good 10-ish minute interview with the owner of the building, and they could tell their history, their experiences, the history of the building, the paranormal experiences they've had, other teams have had. Quite a few of them have given their own evidence that we could play during the interview, to where they're like, then we caught this, and then they play for us. And then that gives us a chance for the building owner to say what they want to say and not have somebody else say it for them. And we always thought that was really cool because it adds that personal element to it. And then for the investigations, a lot of shows, they'll record their investigations and then edit them together so that what really took an hour, but on the show, it looks like it took 2 minutes. Well, we didn't do it that way. We set everything up to where we would reserve the building for the amount of time that you could reserve the building for an investigation. So, for example, we did the Egyptian Theater in DeKalb, Illinois. They normally book for 4 hours, and then they give you the option to add an hour before or after if need be. So we book it for 6. We investigated for 4, but then we use that hour before and the hour after to set up equipment and all the production stuff. So it's still the 4 hours that anyone would normally get. That's it. We don't go back the next day. We don't record for a week and then make it look like a night. We really did it in one night. And then every session is timed to be approximately 10 minutes. Sometimes, you trim a little bit, like, in the beginning, there's always like, okay, this is session number 2. These are the people that are with us. This is the room we're in. This is the cameras we're using, the microphones we use, all the stuff that I know what to look for later. Right. And I know who's in the scene and who I have to match microphones to. You cut some of that stuff out and the 10 minutes gets a little shorter. Sometimes there's a wrap up after a session where Dan will talk to somebody, be like, okay, so what did you hear? I heard this. And sometimes I'll keep that and sometimes I remove that, depending. But for the most part, every session is about 10-ish minutes long. You get the whole session. There's no like, I'm going to take 3 minutes out of this because nothing happened. Well, no, that's investigating. Sometimes nothing happens and you have to watch that. So a lot of people really like that because it showed that it's not all bang, 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 bang. We're getting stuff. We're getting photos. We're getting voices. We're getting this. Sometimes you just have to sit in the dark.
Which is much more authentic because it's not like you can walk into a haunted home and they're like, hey, come on in. We're going to start doing parlor tricks for you right now, which is a lot of the ways that those shows kind of present is that you just turn a light on and, they're talking to you.
Now, I will say that on every investigation, we always aimed for 10 sessions. And we do our best to mix the equipment up. And sometimes, 5 of those 10 have things happen. So those might be the 5 we use because I can only fit so much into an episode. Or sometimes 3 of the 10 have something happen. Well, then you get 2 or 3 where nothing happens. So, the sessions themselves are pure. They're not messed with. There's not anything added. There's no sound effects. There's no background audio. It's just whatever the microphone gets, that's what we get. It did really well. And then Dan decided to retire in January. He stopped paranormal. He's not really doing film anymore. He took up photography, and he's just kind of enjoying his retirement now. So that wrapped the show. But I'm doing a lot of documentaries, and then I'm starting a new show this summer where it's more just me, where everything is instead of being third person and you're the viewer watching it happen in front of you, it's first person. As I experience it, you experience it. And it'll be quite a bit different. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm doing the filming, I think, in July, and it's going to be a pilot. And if people like it, maybe it'll take off and be more. If not, I've got a million documentaries to work on, so I'll do that instead.
Well, you'll have to come back and promote the show when it's ready to roll. You'll have to come out and come on and tell me all about it and where they can see it, and we will promote it. And Larry, we're up over an hour here. I really could talk to you forever. It's been a really great conversation. I'm so glad that you came on the show and that you are that you were on the episode. I mean, I really wish you all the best. I hope your downloads keep happening.
Yes, me too. And no one else knows this, but we had such a hard time to get this show started with the webcam issues, and I'm really glad we figured it out.
This was the first time I had any real technical difficulties. We couldn't figure it out, and I'm so glad we got it together and we're able to get the show in the can, because it was such a great discussion. I find you extremely delightful, and I'd love to have you back on the show. I wish you all the best. Why don't you tell people how they can follow you, how they can reach out to you, how they can get into your world a little bit more? Do you have anything you want to plug? Go ahead and take the floor.
Okay. The easiest place to follow me is unfortunately Facebook. It's Larry Eissler with the Roman numeral 3. That's where I post the most. My Instagram it's Ghost Hunter Larry Eissler, I think my last name's on it. It just basically reposts what's on Facebook to Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter. I'm very rarely on TikTok. It's mostly just Facebook and Instagram. So you can find me there. You could also go to my website, which is small-town-productions.com, also on Facebook. And that's where you can see the stuff that I've done, the different projects that I'm working on. Expedition Editing is on there. I have another documentary that I'm working on called Haunted or Not, which looks at urban legends surrounding one of Illinois' most haunted cemeteries. And I'm still editing that. It's a process, but that's on there. And then my media kit for anyone that wants me to be on a show like you and anyone else. I send the media kit out through my website. You'll also find my 2 books on there. Ghosts of the Black Hawk War, which is our research study on the Black Hawk War of 1832, where we revisit the battle sites, the massacre sites, sometimes the little skirmishes that happen along the way. Like, we'll go to those sites and we'll talk to the spirits there and we'll document what happened while also telling you about the history in a very condensed version. So I give a lot of presentations about that. People always love hearing about the Black Hawk War. And then the other book is Afterlife Anthologies. It's a collection of 17 short stories where the majority are written from the ghost perspective.
Oh, cool.
So you have a ghost going, why do people keep moving into my house and then leaving me? What is going on? It's a lot of fun. Let's see.
That sounds fascinating.
I think that's it. I guess the only other thing would be I'm going to be at a lot of conferences. So if anyone wants to stop by and talk to me and see me at a conference or see me give a presentation at a conference, I have a very long list of ones that I'm going to. I have to actually pull it up on my computer here because I don't even know where I'm all going to. Let's see. I'm going to June 8th, Chicago Paranormal Convention. I'm giving my talk on AI and the paranormal and how AI could be very dangerous to paranormal investigating with faking evidence. I'll be at the Battlefield Gettysburg Bash doing a workshop breakaway group in the ballroom for producing a paranormal series or paranormal documentary. I'm doing a workshop and teaching people how to do it. I'm at the Michigan Paracon. I'm at Chris Fleming's pop-up Paracon in October. And then this is a fun one. my friend Neil, he has an event company in Chicago. He's doing an event at the Roth House, which is recorded to be the very first possession in the United States. And they did a seance way, way, way back in the day. He's doing a seance for this event. And there's like 200 tickets for this seance. And these 200 people are going to feed their energy into the main circle with the psychic medium in the center doing the seance. Wow. And we're going to see if all those added people, what that does to the seance and what it does to the energy. Cool. And then it'll be at the Roth House, which is where the possession took place. And then after the seance, people can investigate the house to see how the spirits interacted with that energy.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. I would kind of dig that. That sounds like my kind of night.
Well, and the really cool thing is I'm filming a documentary about it.
Oh,
so we're documenting everything as much as we possibly can to see, does the seance affect the activity in the house, and do all these extra people feeding energy into it, what happened to the seance because of that?
Wow.
So,
well, Larry, I wish you all the best. I hope to have you back on the show. I would love to plug whatever you got coming out. Sure. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Larry Eissler III, for taking the time to be on Fate from Atheism to Enlightenment.
Where do you think I am along that path? Am I like somewhere in the middle, maybe? A little bit closer to Enlightenment?
I'm in the middle myself. We are very like-minded people. I am trotting down the path to enlightenment as we speak. I fall down every day.
I'll go like 2 steps behind you then. I feel like that's a safe spot for me.
Do it. I highly encourage you. Come on in. The water's just fine.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. That's right. Alrighty, guys. With that, thank you for another episode of Fate. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Larry. Journey well, everybody. And that is a wrap on Spirits and Entities with Larry Eissler III. I hope you enjoyed that show. I know I did. I thought we had a fascinating discussion. And I also really appreciate that he is a former atheist like myself, stepping into his own path of spirituality, embracing his own psychic gifts. And I really wish him well. Maybe we'll have him back on the show at some point and get an update from Larry to see how he's doing on his own spiritual journey. Good luck, Larry. Check out his show called Expedition Entity on the Paraflix Network, and I will put all of his social medias in my show notes. So if you feel like following our friend Larry, you can do that. Now, next week on Fate from Atheism to Enlightenment, I have a very special guest I'm bringing you. They call him Scotty the Medium. He has been on the Discovery Channel. He had a show called Paranormal 911. He's been on Inside Edition, the Travel Channel. He is a very well-respected psychic medium who dabbles in ghost hunting, paranormal, and also can bring you back messages from the other side from your loved ones. I'm very excited to have him on the show. Please tune in next week. I will be bringing you our discussion. He's going to tell me all about it. Super grateful that he's going to join the Fate podcast. If you want to follow the show, guys, I'm on Instagram. It's at F.A.T.E. podcast on Instagram. I got to be honest, I don't have time to post a lot, but follow the show, share the show, subscribe, talk about it. I want to keep this show going as much as possible. I really am enjoying the process, and I'm hoping you are too. Continue to journey with me. I'm going to bring you fantastic people, great discussions. It'll open your mind, and who knows where it will go for you. I know that I am broadening my horizons and becoming more and more open to the complexities of what our magical lives have to offer. And I am hoping to continue to dance in this direction. So help me out. Like, subscribe, follow, share, tell a friend. Go ahead and visit me on my YouTube channel. It's at Fate Channel, where you can see me having my conversations with my guests. It's a lot of fun. comment. I will do my best to get back to you. If you have a suggestion for the show, totally open for it. Looking for fantastic people to come on that I can have open-minded discussions with. So feel free to reach out if you have an interesting story, if you're just stepping on your spiritual path, if you had a near-death experience, paranormal experience, a healing modality that brought you back to life from the brink of death. All of it, I talk about it here on this show, and I want to bring it to as many people as possible. So with that, guys, we'll see you next week on Faith from Atheism to Enlightenment. And I'm your host, Christy Busby. Welcome to your Faith gang. We'll see you next week. Bye.